Okay, good morning, everyone. It is May 12th, 2025. First off, I want to thank all the people who have subscribed to my YouTube channel and all the people who put out their comments. Thank you. And I hope all of you will subscribe and like the video as well. For those of you watching this on Facebook, please note this will be the last of my Facebook videos. I've started putting everything on YouTube instead. I've actually put several videos on there that I've not put on Facebook. And the reason for that is so I don't kind of clutter everyone's timeline on Facebook. Facebook tends to have a lot of happy content, you know, the beautiful cake someone baked or someone's kid, you know, got on a roll, things like that. And so this way, you know, I'm not cluttering that with a lot of, you know, politics and stuff like that. But either way, on to the topic of the video. The United States and China have announced a de-escalation of this trade war. It's being trumpeted as a trade deal. It does not appear to me to be a trade deal. It appears to me as a massive rollback of Trump's tariffs and China's retaliatory tariffs to that. The United States will go from a 145% tariff on Chinese imports, which, by the way, I will remind everyone that is paid by the American importer. It is not paid by the Chinese exporter. It will go from 145% to 30%. And China will drop its imports on American goods, which are paid by the Chinese importer, not the American exporter, from 125% to 10%. So pretty massive de-escalation here. However, it should be noted that in 2017, China's tariffs on American imports were around 4.5%. So China currently has double the tariff rate on American imports than they did 8 years ago. So there's a lot of time. I was reading through Besant's comments about it, and he was talking about barriers to American imports. There are substantially higher barriers to American exports, substantially higher barriers to American exports to China now after this de-escalation than there were 8 years ago. Obviously, there are much higher American barriers to imports from China than there were 8 years ago. 8 years ago, we were at around 2.5–3% tariffs on Chinese goods. So American importers will continue to pay a lot more in taxes. The Chinese importers will continue to pay a lot more in taxes. There will definitely be less trade than there was before. However, we have moved away from what was effectively a de facto trade embargo between the two countries. So overall, this is a big improvement. However, it is only an improvement when compared to the Liberation Day announcement. When compared to as trade existed, say January 1st of this year, this is much worse. So again, what baseline you're using is going to have a big impact here. I also was able to look at the British-American trade deal, which I would hardly call a deal. It is 1.5 pages. For comparison, I looked up the USMCA. That was the United States, Canada, Mexico trade agreement that was put into place in either 2019 or 2020. It's from the first Trump administration. That's over 700 pages. Tell me if you're noticing a pattern here. The original draft of the Ukraine minerals deal was 2 pages. The American outline for the Ukraine-Russia piece was 1 page. The American-UK trade deal is 1.5 pages. The new draft of the Ukraine minerals deal is about 13 pages. So if we put all of these deals, which I hate, again, this term shouldn't even be applied, together, they're not even 5% of the length of one Trump's first term trade deals. Not even 5%. And that's several agreements put together. Of agreements, they're, again, hardly even can be called agreements. By the way, the UK trade deal is non-legally binding. That was put into it. Either country can walk away without anything the other country can do about it. So the best analogy I can think of what we're seeing is I put in one of my videos that one of the things that Besant said, and frankly even Lutnick and Trump said before the Liberation Day announcement, was that there would be, as soon as they announced the tariffs, they would begin dismantling them with carve-outs, exemptions, rollbacks, pauses, and they were telling the truth. Trump put out a huge series of tariffs. He has now rolled back or paused the vast majority of them. We still have substantially higher tariffs that American importers are paying. Think of that as taxes. American importers are paying a lot more taxes. It is nowhere near as high as the numbers that he initially put out. But again, we are seeing exemptions, carve-outs, pauses, rollbacks. He is dismantling his own trade policy literally as fast as he can at this point, which makes me question why he even bothered putting it out in the first place. In terms of, are we getting concessions that are opening foreign markets to American exports? The answer is no. So far, the best concession we've gotten is the British have agreed that they will allow at least 13,000 tons of American beef to be imported to the UK. 13,000 tons is nothing. That is a drop in the bucket. I mean, really, it's a drop in the bucket. That would not even make the United Kingdom one of our top 15 export markets just for American beef. And so far, that is the only meaningful concession I can see we've gotten for any of this. Overall, there are now more barriers, quite a few more barriers, in fact, to American exports than there were before, not to mention the political backlash that we're seeing in foreign markets where people are just saying, screw the United States, we're not going to buy your products. Not because of trade barrier, but just we're mad at you because of the way you're acting. I know a lot of people saying, well, the United States is respected again around the world. No, we are not. I've been looking at every foreign news source I can get my hands on to try to understand how other countries are reacting to this. And I've been trying to note a lot on what their economists and their politicians are saying. And no, we are not respected. Countries are mad at us. They think this is stupid. They think this is insane. Nobody is saying, well, gosh, we need to respect the United States more. We need to take them more seriously. What I'm hearing over and over again is, how do we cut ourselves off from the United States? We need to not be attached to them because they're crazy, they're unreliable, they're bad faith partners, they are not our friends, and they are not someone we want to do business with. So right now, I would say this, I just don't even understand the point of all this. In terms of the China de-escalation, the best analogy I can think of is if you said you wanted to lose weight and you went out, you said, today I'm going to start cutting calories, and then you go out and you buy a big bottle of Coke, you take a big swig, and then you pour it out and say, aha, look how disciplined I am. Then after that, you go and you buy a cookie, you take a big bite out of it, and then you throw it away and say, look how disciplined I am. Then you buy a brownie, you take a bite out of that and throw it away and say, look how disciplined I am. That's basically what's happened with the US and China. We've ramped up and ramped up and ramped up tariffs to the point we effectively embargoed them, and now have rolled them back to levels that were much, much higher than they used to be, but are much, much lower than what they were at their peak. In 2017, we had about 2.5% tariff on China. So again, overall, this is a de-escalation. It is a good thing. I'm glad we are doing this. We need trade with China. Trade with China is something we should have. But we are just rolling back bad policy. There are no real trade deals being made here. So either way, I hope this helps. I hope this sheds some light on some things. And if you disagree, say so in the comments. Feel free to fact check me or say what you think. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.